Rorosaurus is the amazing wooden roller coaster at Storyland. If you told me a decade ago that Storyland would receive a wood coaster just 40 feet or 12 meters tall, I would have believed you. If you told me Storyland was going to get a roller coaster with a dozen airtime moments, I would have called you a liar. But after Gravity Group unveiled Wooden Warrior Quasi and showed what they could do with such a small coaster, Rorosaurus became an intriguing ride for me once it was announced. I still had my doubts if Storyland would actually build something with as much airtime as Wooden Warrior, and they didn't. Rorosaurus crushes Wooden Warrior. This is the most relentless small-scale Gravity Group coaster. This ride has some serious airtime, including a finale that is really reminiscent of Steel Vengeance. So in this video, I will explain why Rorosaurus is one of the most underrated roller coasters in the world. Storyland has always been a park for children. As a result, roller coasters have never been their focus. From 1975 through 1986, they had the small Bradley and Kay Iceberg coaster. Then in 1987, this ride was replaced by the Polar Coaster, a cute Hopkins terrain coaster that winds its way down the hillside. This was the perfect introductory coaster for kids, as it wasn't very intense and still perfectly comfortable for larger guests so they could ride side by side with their children. Gravity Group built Wooden Warrior for Quasi in 2011, and it was a major success. Wooden Warrior cost only $2 million, and it was masterfully designed. The coaster stood just 32 feet or 10 meters tall, yet it featured airtime better than coasters 3 to 5 times its size. The ride was thrilling for all ages, but its low height restriction and modest overall height made it accessible to young kids. It now serves as a gateway coaster for budding coaster enthusiasts. Storyland wanted a signature new attraction, and Wooden Warrior caught their eye. So for the 2014 season, Storyland opened Rorosaurus. The ride has a similar sized drop to Wooden Warrior, and just one more foot of track. Rorosaurus has 1,240 feet, or 378 meters of track. Rorosaurus is more compact, so it manages to cram in more airtime hills and excitement than Wooden Warrior. Rorosaurus is located in the very back of Storyland, but because of how far back it is from the main entrance, it doesn't actually open until a half hour after the rest of the park. That makes it a bit harder to beat the crowds on busy weekend days. I do recommend riding Rorosaurus early in the day because this coaster can build up a line. And I don't find this coaster tends to heat up as the day goes on. It rides great start to finish. Storyland can get decent crowds, yet they only ordered a single 12-person train for their newest coaster. Oddly, Polar Coaster has a higher capacity as that one runs 2 trains. Because Rorosaurus does not have the highest capacity, it's important this ride has a good crew. And thankfully the crew on this ride does check the restraints super quickly so they can at least maximize that modest throughput. And this is not a queue line you want to get stuck in. The queue line for Rorosaurus wraps around the ride's structure. While this gives some awesome views, there is zero shade. A full queue line takes roughly 45 minutes, assuming lightning quick dispatches, but usually the peak wait most days will be closer to 20 to 30 minutes. Rorosaurus is also loud. You are mere feet from the coaster, so you will hear the loud rumble and steel screeching every time this coaster cycles. The noise can be unpleasant for all ages waiting in line, but I've seen it terrify a lot of children to the point they don't even want to ride this coaster. Rorosaurus doesn't have any theming along the ride's course, but the ride is part of a small dinosaur area. The ride plaza has a giant statue, plus some explorer music mixed with dinosaur roars. Then the fencing around the queue line has factoids about dinosaurs going from A to Z. But that all pales in comparison to Rorosaurus' lead car. It is a stunningly detailed green dinosaur at the helm, and it looks great. It's one of the best lead cars out there in my opinion. And speaking of those trains, the Timberliner trains are super comfortable for all ages. The seats are well padded, and you have just a lap bar that swivels from the side. These restraints make it super easy to experience this coaster's airtime. And trust me, there is a lot of it. Possibly too much for the park's audience. The ride's relentless nature catches a lot of adults off guard. Many come off shocked how wild this coaster is, despite its small stature. And it leads to a lot of lost articles. Storyland proudly displays a whiteboard in the station, keeping track of how many articles are lost both on the day and season. On average, Rorosaurus steals 2 to 3 items per day. Phones are the top item lost, but the ride operators in 2021 were proudly touting that this coaster actually ripped off someone's hair extensions a few days before my visit. Storyland offers free cubbies in the station, and the crew gives oncoming riders plenty of warning what they're about to experience, but people will still lose things without fail. In general, Storyland has very friendly staff. But one weird thing that happens at Rorosaurus is what they do when a kid comes back screaming. Rather than consoling the child, they sort of heartlessly add that child to their tally of riders who came off crying on the whiteboard. Fortunately, most kids and adults do come off smiling and laughing. Rorosaurus delivers a wild ride in all seats, but I do have a slight preference for the back. Most elements ride similarly throughout the train, but the back row gets the full power of the first drop and a few other hills. Rorosaurus has a super narrow station, but you are allowed to wait for any row of your choice. Once dispatched, you slightly turn out of the station and quickly ascend the ride's small lift hill. At the top, you get a gorgeous view of the White Mountains. Then you turn 180 degrees and the action begins. The first drop is only 38 feet or 11.5 meters tall, but it packs a serious punch. You're still turning as you start the drop, so everyone gets some laterals. Then if you're in the back, you also get some good floater airtime simultaneously because the drop is deceptively steep. You then navigate a double up. The first hump gives a great pop of airtime up front and decent floater airtime towards the back. The second hump gives solid floater airtime up front, and then those in the back get strong floater airtime on the descent. The double up is easily the ride's second tallest point. From this point forwards, Rorosaurus hugs the ground and ups the ante. You then zip around a low turn that leads into a tunnel. This turn is underbanked, so you get some moderate laterals. And those laterals are carried throughout the surprise bunny hill in the tunnel that gives a good pop of airtime. You then emerge into the daylight and navigate a double down. Those up front get 2 nice pops of airtime back to back. Those in the back get a fairly good airtime pop on the first drop, and a strong and abrupt ejector pop on that second drop. And that second drop is also paired with a sweet head chopper with the double up. You then navigate back-to-back bunny hills. The first one has a decent pop of airtime throughout the train. The second one has a weaker pop throughout the train. Rorosaurus then zooms around another low turnaround, giving some sustained laterals, before hitting one of the craziest sequences on any coaster, the Bunny Hill finale. You have 4 consecutive hills. They are tiny and have super sharp crests. They almost look triangular, so each hill tries to launch you to the moon. All 4 hills have very strong and aggressive ejector airtime pops in the back. The third hill only offers a weaker pop towards the front, but the other 3 hills deliver nearly as crazy airtime as the back. But along with this airtime, there are also some subtle laterals mixed in. The second bunny hill gradually turns to the left, so you get some solid laterals paired with that wild ejector pop. Then the third bunny hill sort of rides like an S hill because you subtly twist to the left into the hill and twist to the right out of it, so you get some weak lateral shift on both sides of the airtime. Getting 4 ejector airtime pops in a row is something few coasters can match. Rorosaurus' finale is special. Between its power and pacing, it reminds me of the final bunny hills on Steel Vengeance. I never thought one day I'd compare the best coaster at Cedar Point to a ride at Storyland, but Rorosaurus is 100% worthy. This ride is legit. You then turn into the station, getting one last dose of laterals, but this turn is also rather shaky, easily the roughest part of the ride. Now in general, Rorosaurus is pretty smooth. However, the ride does have a noticeable shuffle on all 3 turnarounds. The turns on Rorosaurus are very tight. The other small-scale gravity groups that came after Rorosaurus take their turns more smoothly, so I'm guessing future rides were adjusted accordingly based on their learnings with this one. So what would I rate Rorosaurus? I would give this underrated wood coaster a 9 out of 10. Rorosaurus is spectacular. This is the reason I shamelessly return to Storyland as a grown adult annually. Rorosaurus may only have a top speed of 33 miles per hour or 53 kilometers per hour, but the coaster feels way faster because of how compact those elements are. And the coaster is a frenetic blitz of powerful airtime. This sense of speed and constant airtime makes this one of the best paced wood coasters out there. Rorosaurus goes full throttle start to finish. I just love this coaster's relentlessness. This coaster destroys the other small scale gravity groups. Rorosaurus is a borderline top 10 wood coaster for me, which is no small feat, and this is easily the second best wood coaster in all of New England after Boulder Dash. I know not a lot of enthusiasts make it up to Storyland, but this coaster is absolutely worth the trip if you find yourself in New England. So those are my thoughts on Rorosaurus, the amazing Junior Gravity Group coaster at Storyland. What are your thoughts on this coaster? How do you think it compares to the other small scale gravity groups? I would love to hear your thoughts about Rorosaurus down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.